Concealed cameras filming bully at Burger King revealed something truly profound. In dramatic footage captured by hidden cameras, customers at a Burger King restaurant are tucking into their meals when a concerning scene begins to unfold. A young dude is shown getting verbally and physically harassed by a group of teens at his table. The customers can see and hear what's happening, yet no one seems to intervene. Then, after some diners take a closer look at their food, things suddenly start to escalate. The hesitance on the part of the customers is perhaps understandable at first. After all, when you go to a fast food restaurant for a bite to eat, you don't usually expect any kind of drama. But clearly that wasn't the deal at this particular Burger King. The patrons may have needed a moment to wonder what is going on. The incident occurred at one of the chain's establishments in Los Angeles, California. And in the footage posted to YouTube, all initially appears to be well as a junior high school student takes a seat. Much like other customers, he starts to pick at the food on his tray. Yet everything changes a few moments later. Before he knows it, the young man is surrounded by 3 teenagers who walk into the restaurant. It seems as though they're all familiar with one another, but the encounter itself is far from friendly. In fact, it doesn't take long until things appear to get very uncomfortable at that table. To start with, one of the teens jabs his hand into the student's body. "Please stop," the boy cries. But the pleading falls on deaf ears. "Fine," the aggressor mockingly responds, continuing the physical teasing. Then another member of the group seems to get involved in the action as well. At this stage, the physical actions are also coupled with vocal jibes. One of the group is heard asking, "Do you have any friends?" The youngster says that he does, only for a second kid to fire back, "What are you even doing here?" Following this exchange, the taunting shows no signs of stopping. In the footage, a member of the group goes on to grab a French fry from the student's tray before waving it in front of his face. And if that isn't enough, one of the gang then shoves the boy, knocking him off his seat to the floor. This is the moment that the other customers begin to realize what is happening. How do they respond to the scene of bullying occurring before them? Well, as the footage shows, many of the patrons watch on from their seats and don't opt to intervene. There are some disbelieving glances, but unfortunately, it looks like the high school junior is very much on his own. And things don't get much better, either. After the student picks himself up off the floor, the kids shown tormenting him have seemingly got one more nasty surprise planned. The apparent leader of the pack grabs the boy's drink from the tray and proceeds to tip it over the rest of his food. This isn't all the hidden cameras captured that day, though. For the surrounding customers at that Burger King in Los Angeles, there was yet another thing to be worried about. That becomes clear in the footage when some of the diners unwrap their food orders. An unsuspecting woman is the first to notice that something's wrong. Instead of receiving a perfectly assembled Whopper Jr. from the counter, the woman has got a burger that has been squashed into a deformed mound of bread and meat. To say it looks unappetizing would be a massive understatement. And the lady isn't the only person to receive their Whopper Jr. in such a state at the restaurant. For instance, a guy sees that his order has been completely flattened, too. He shows it to his buddy, who readily agrees that it is just not right. But mistakes can happen in restaurants, can't they? Perhaps these smashed patties slipped out of the kitchen by accident. Yet it doesn't stop there. The edited YouTube footage shows that more customers are greeted by smashed burgers as time goes on. And unsurprisingly, many of these people aren't too pleased with what they've been given, prompting them to approach the counter to complain. One of them even asks to see a manager. But here's where things get really strange. As the cameras highlight, one man shows his destroyed order to a member of staff who then responds with an odd question. "Did you order it bullied or unbullied?" he asks. The customer's face says it all. "Bullied or unbullied?" The guy repeats with a baffled expression. A different customer is equally confused by the state of his mangled Whopper Jr., claiming it doesn't make any sense. Yet when he gets to speak to the restaurant's manager, it leads to an even weirder exchange. The guy in charge demands of his colleague, "Did you bully this burger?" In response, he simply notes, "Well, yeah." What is going on at this Burger King? The same worker behind the counter also delivers another bizarre statement to a customer looking for answers. He says, "This is a defenseless Whopper Jr., it can't defend itself." The manager chirps up, too, adding, "We don't mean anything by it, so just relax." The patron doesn't take too kindly to this particular exchange, though, as he barks, "Just give me my burger, man." His frustration is clear to see. Then, after another customer comes to the counter with their squashed food, the worker smashes his fist into the mess to make it even worse. Just like his fellow customers, this diner has no idea what to make of the scene. But his response suggests he isn't best pleased with what he's watched. "What?" he says in pure confusion. "Is there something wrong with you?" The fraud exchange between the pair doesn't conclude there, though. The man behind the counter asks the irritated customer, "Had you seen me bullying this burger, would you have stood up and said something?" He responds with a nod. "That's good to know," the guy says. Each customer who complains about their mashed up burger is equally baffled by these events. But then they didn't know what we know. As it turned out, this whole thing was set up by Burger King. The man behind the counter was an actor, as were the teens and the high school student. It was a social experiment that coincided with National Bullying Prevention Month, which falls in October each year. However, while the aim of the test was quite simple, the reactions it elicited were way more than anyone bargained for. As we've seen so far, lots of customers ignored the cruel taunting happening right under their nose. The cameras even captured one guy walking past the raging teenagers to bring his battered Whopper Jr. to the counter. He paid absolutely no mind to the bullying going on. Though it was staged, it was a startling sight that would be hard to ignore. But not everyone in the restaurant that day turns a blind eye to the abuse. Yes, two people decide to step in and help the bullied student in their own way. The first is a female customer who sits at a table just to the side of the commotion. "Are you okay?" she asks the so-called victim. After the kid reassures her that he's fine, the woman takes her tray over to his table. She sits with him and asks the apparent main bully for his name, and that prompts the group to leave. "See you later," she responds. "See, this feels better to me." From here, an intriguing conversation emerges between the pair. "Have you ever been, messed with before?" the student asks. The lady then replies, "Oh my god. The ideal world is where if somebody else sees something weird happening, they'll come over and say, hey. This is not okay." As for the second Good Samaritan, he takes a different approach. That Burger King customer engages the bullies, taking exception to their claim that everything is fine. He asks the seemingly distressed youngster, "Are you having fun?" He's not having fun. "So therefore I think you guys should just leave him alone." In the YouTube footage, a camera crew catches up with this guy after he leaves the restaurant. Explaining why he stepped in to help, he says, "To feel defenseless, that's one of the worst things in the world. I've been that kid, so if I see it, I'm going to do something about it. And I hope there are more people out there like that." Once the experiment came to an end, a man named Nicholas Carlisle praised the Burger King campaign during an interview with WGN-TV. Carlisle had started a program called No Bully back in 2003 after going through similar experiences himself. The fast food chain had even worked with this group in the past, too. Carlisle said, "We know that bullying takes on many forms: physical, verbal, relational, and online. But the first step to putting an end to bullying is to take a stand against it. Our partnership with the Burger King brand is an example of how brands can bring positive awareness to important issues. You have to start somewhere, and they chose to start within." Time to clear up some lingering questions. What were the exact figures coming out of this social experiment? And, in addition to the two customers that we know about, did anyone else intervene and help the bullied kid at the restaurant? Well, according to Burger King, 95% of those who received a bullied Whopper Jr. that day flagged it up to the staff. On the flip side, though, only 12% went to the aid of the harassed student.